Our first artist, okay? He's from Queens. He goes by JD Paints. Oh, okay, JD Paints. I've been following. JD Paints. JD Paints with a Z. JD Paints with a Z, all right? This is his second art battle. He was a runner-up last time we did this, a long time ago, but he was a runner-up. He's a muralist. New York City, make some noise this time for JD Paints. All right, our second artist is not a professional artist, okay? It was very clear. She wanted me to say that to you. But she is a professional interior designer. She's from Russia. This is her second time, all right? I've seen her paint before. It's pretty incredible. I was lucky enough to be there the first time. Make some noise for Kate. Just Kate. All right, our third artist is a tattoo artist from Long Island. Now, we know his style. It's a little bit slower. And tonight, I didn't really tell you, the format, his first round only has 20 minutes. And then we're gonna have another round of 6 artists. They have 20 minutes. We're gonna pick 2 artists from this round, 2 artists from next round, and then there's 4 in the finals. Okay? And it's 20 minutes, it's fast. Sometimes the format of art battles might be 40 minutes, 60 minutes, 80 minutes. So that's 20 minutes, it's gonna move fast. And this artist is like, it doesn't really, it's not to my advantage. I'm a tattoo artist. I said maybe somebody tonight wants a tattoo. So you can't lose. Make some noise. Second time on the art battle stage, Brandon San Angelo. All right, our next artist is a first timer. He's a first timer, all right? So particularly, give him some love. All right, he's from Harlem. We did a little bit of research and we found out that he's your girl's favorite artist, all right? Make some noise for Tony, Josie's boy, Rose! The next artist has been on the art battle stage a handful of times. It's pretty spectacular. She focuses on landscapes, wild animals, natural things. You guys are very pleased to welcome to the stage, Na-G! Popped up on the side like WWF. That's what I like to see, just popped over on somebody's shoulder. Good, yes! All right, our last artist in round 1. This is an art battle winner, okay? This is an art battle winner, and just to be clear, hey, Slokey, turn the music off for just a quick second. When I say an art battle winner, let me make sure you guys understand what I mean here. When someone wins tonight, they get invited back to a show we're gonna do in about 5 months from now. The date's not quite set yet. And if they win that show, then they win the New York City, title for art battles. And if they win that, then they get to go to the North America title. And if they win that, they get to go to the world title. Each way, it helps them get promoted, get in front of people, get paid, get their art out, travel, do all kinds of stuff. So just to be clear, when you vote for these artists tonight, when you buy their paintings, when you support them, when you cheer for them, it can really help them move on along this competition, amongst other things. So, all right, turn the music back on. Let's go. So, former art battle winner, Total Beast from Montreal. Give it up for Tanya S.T. All right, so like I said, we're gonna give him 20 minutes. All right, Slokey. We're gonna give him 20 minutes. We're gonna give him some love. We're gonna make him feel good about being up on stage. So New York City, Friday night, holiday season, first time in a while. Make some noise for the artists on stage. DJ Slokey, you ready? All right, we're gonna kick them off on 3. Ready? Countdown with me. 3, 2, 1, let's battle!
number 1 of Art Battle in New York City. And we are off for round number 1 of Art Battle in New York City. It is going to be an absolutely epic, incredible night, and we cannot wait to see what comes out of these brushes, what emerges from our easels and from our canvases and from our artists tonight. These guys are sure to kill it. We've got an absolutely stellar lineup. Some of these artists have won before, some of these artists have been finalists before, and some of these artists are making their very first debut appearance. So it is sure to be a fierce competition tonight. That being said, right now we are looking at Naji, and she has just such an incredible ability to create these really intuitive brush marks that are inspired by Asian and Chinese brushwork. So interested to see where Naji is going to bring that. We've seen her do animal portraits. We have seen her do landscape work as well. Here we are with Tanya ST, and Tanya likes to travel for Art Battle. She was previously based in New York. We have also seen her paint in Toronto, where she's been a finalist, and recently she was a winner in Art Battle New York. So she's definitely come back this season to see if she can take the crown again. We can see that Tanya is working on a face in the top corner of the canvas, so potentially a little bit challenging in terms of composition, being that there's a lot of canvas to cover, and usually we see portraits that are taking up more of the canvas, that are very expansive, so it'll be interesting to see how she expands that composition. And I believe that this is John D'Olimpio, and looks like John has fully gridded out his piece. How cool is that? I think that he's working with markers right now, but I think it's absolutely incredible. I don't know if I've ever actually seen this before, an artist fully using the grid method in a 20-minute timed period. That's some commitment to your reference right there. We can see his reference. He has drawn the grid and has basically plotted out where important points of his composition are. That to me right away is just telling me that John did not come to play. And here we are with Kate Zarkova, and lots of paint on the canvas so far from Kate. We've got quite a lot of coverage. I would say so far she's the artist that has the most paint coverage going on, has the most work filled. And we've got this kind of thick application of paint going on, which could potentially represent a little bit of a challenge, being that in this timed setting, we're working wet on wet. So doing a super heavy application of paint right off the bat could present a challenge to her in the attempt to not muddy any of her colors. But again, Kate is a really experienced Art Battle artist, so definitely confident that she'll pull something off. Here we are with Brandon Santangelo, and Brandon is a tattoo artist who works mostly in black and white, and he is a co-owner of Black Book Tattoo Studio. And this is, I believe, Brandon's 3rd time painting an Art Battle, and he did not come to fool around. We can see that he's working on the beginnings of a skull now, and getting those teeth out of the way, being one of the details of the skull, I think is a good strategy to kind of approach those first. And here we are with Josie's boy, aka Tony Gonzalez. And Tony has what looks like a figure going on centrally in the canvas. And we see this big outline done in pencil around the head of the figure. So interested to see where that goes. Are we going to see kind of a halo effect? Is that hair? Oh, checking out the reference here. It looks like we've got some boxing gloves. So that's, I always love seeing artists bringing their reference. Really gives us a peek into their process. So back with Naji, and we have our answer of whether or not she was going to go animalistic or landscape based, and definitely looks like we have some sort of panther potentially going on here. Executed so far only in silhouette and getting this hit of red being thrown into the mouth. and really strong silhouette too. We're even, I think, without the teeth, we would understand that this is some sort of big cat. So the way that Art Battle works is these artists have 20 minutes only on the clock to go from blank canvas to incredible masterpiece creation in an effort to gather your votes. The top 2 artists, as voted by the audience, will move forward from each qualifying round into a 4-artist final showdown. So as you're watching these artists, not only are we thinking about who is doing a beautiful piece or a piece that visually is stunning, but we also want to think about whose performance is awesome. And right now, I am loving Tanya Est's performance. She looks like she's just absolutely vibing and having such a good time. And also, it looks like she's really solved a lot of those compositional challenges that we were thinking about before, being with the single figure in the corner, in the top corner. Now we have a balancing figure, and it also looks like this figure is kind of taking on a separate palette. So it could even be that one of these figures is feminine and one is masculine. I'm getting that a little bit just from the angularity of the features in each one. And big kudos to Tanya, because this is really coming together so quickly, and we're only 7 minutes in. So yes, you will be going to artbattle.com/AB2408, the link that is on our screen here, and you will be able to vote. You will be able to share the live stream with any of your friends that you are wanting to share it with. You'll also be able to see all of our artists' bios and be able to bid and take the work home. You don't need to be in the room to be able to bid on this work. Wow, this is so impressive from John. I'm so excited about it. The way that it's coming together is just so amazing. And now we can see that he has a secondary reference. So he had his first reference, which was the sketch and included that grid. And now we can see he has a second reference that is focused on the tonal quality of the piece and where each shade is supposed to go. This is just absolutely blowing my mind, especially from a technique perspective. I'm really getting a good opportunity to show my art nerdiness in enjoying the way that John is working. Back with Kate here, and we're seeing some sort of orb emerging and lots of texture going on here. I think that this piece is going to be one that is very based in performance, in that it's kind of going to keep us guessing a little bit. As the time ticks down, I think that it will reveal more and more of itself. Or potentially it could be an abstract work. You never know. We usually have seen a lot of figurative work from Kate, so I think that this is a little bit of a departure for her, and I'm looking forward to seeing how this piece emerges. Back over to Brandon, and he has executed quite a lot of this skull figure here, sticking with the black and white. I hope that we get a chance to take a little glimpse at his palette and see if he has any surprise colors on there that might be added. I always kind of like to see where the artist might be going based on what paints they've loaded their palette up with. But really careful brushwork here from Brandon, and good execution in terms of proportion of the skull. Back with Josie's boy here, and something that I really enjoy about Josie's boy's work is that it kind of blends illustration with a bit of a street art vibe, and then even in the background of all of that, there's also kind of an Art Nouveau quality. He often is adding these kind of graphic lines that are slightly curving into his works. So I'm really, really hoping that we get an opportunity to see that as his finishing touch on this piece. We can see on his palette that he's loaded up with a lot of black. So I am anticipating that that's where we're going with this. Back over to Naji. And this piece is just getting stronger by the minute. I really have to commend her on the background color choice. It's just providing a huge amount of contrast here for our big cat going on. The use of the yellow juxtaposing the black is a really nice touch and warms this piece up a lot. Yellow can be an absolute challenge whenever you're placing it next to dark colors like the black that she's using here. And she's doing it really, really skillfully and has actually created this halo that is around the creature. And this white halo of highlight, I think, is allowing kind of that buffer zone for the yellow to not get muddy and bleed into the black. So very smart strategy there from Najee. Back with Tanya here, and Tanya describes her work as being a meditation of colors and emotions and form. And I can absolutely see that we are witnessing that right now. This piece is so emotive, it's so painterly. We're getting a sensation of kind of this sketchiness with some of the dry brush that she laid down in the beginning. We can see some of the brush marks have dragged a little bit and are showing the canvas underneath. I always love that, and I feel like it really shows the hand of the artist and really emphasizes that this is an object that is, or an art piece that is not trying to be this perfect object. It is really evident that it is being handmade by an artist. And Tanya is a really intuitive painter, and it's just really wonderful to be able to see that up close. We are just over halfway through, so make sure that you go to artbattle.com/AB2408 and cast your vote, register to vote, because you guys have the difficult job of choosing your favorite artist from this round. The top 2 artists will move forward into the final. Back with John here, and again, just so impressed with this level of technique. I think that this technique is probably based in John's background as a mural artist, someone who's used to working really large. Mural artists are often using the grid technique. But check out this gold that he's got going on right now. This is just blowing my mind. Sometimes the camera has a little bit of difficulty picking up the metallics, but the metallics are absolutely shining through, and it's really just kind of underlining this godliness of this figure, the epicness of this very statuesque male portrait. And he's super rapid too. We're seeing these careful outlining marks around the edges of the portrait, and then right next to it, super rapid brushwork. Back with Kate here, and I think that we're starting to see some shadows emerging from this piece. We've got this very central focus on this round shape that has a lot of colors going on. Potentially, my brain just really wants to look for some sort of figurative sense in it. So I'm wondering whether or not this is totally abstract or if this is an object. Would love to hear from you guys in the audience what your impression of Kate's piece is. I love seeing Brandon's brush just kind of dancing in the way that he's adding these shadows. We can, from the way that he's drawing, I'm really starting to see that he's often probably used to working in a dry media, because he's painting in a way that is very close to drawing. We can see that he's holding the brush very close to the tip, which is how you would usually hold a drawing instrument. And that he's using it in this kind of sketching fashion to lay in these gradients and shadows, and just really honing in on that skull and all of the shadows and cracks and crags within it. So back with Josie's Boy, and it looks like I've gotten my wish of for these illustrative lines to kind of finish up this piece. I think that Josie's Boy has made a really great series of decisions in terms of his time management for this piece. We can see that he's basically almost done, and we have just under 5 minutes remaining on the clock. And so really he's just in kind of the refinement stage here. We're getting our little hits of contrast that we need and loving watching him put the whites of the eyes in there, just adding that connection that we crave so often from portraiture. I'm wondering if this is, I think it's a big cat. I think that it's a big cat, but the energy is also, the nose is maybe potentially giving me a little bit of like a wild hog kind of energy as well. It's really fierce and really well composed. I think that the use of the yellow as the negative space is really smart. It's giving this piece such a beautiful graphic quality. And back with Tanya, and I'm so pleased with this piece that I don't think that she's overpainting it. There's so many beautiful, subtle moments within this piece. The only danger that I've been worried about with Tanya so far is the potential to overpaint it and to take away some of these surprising moments. But Tanya is doing such a great job in terms of just keeping the purity of this painting, keeping the impression, keeping the emotive brush strokes, and just not overworking it. I think that there's a great level of restraint here, and also so many layers emerging and receding at the same time. Just a real stunner. I think that this piece is going to be a true contender for bringing Tanya to the final potentially. Another artist that I think could potentially be a contender for the finals is John. He's just refined this piece now, and it's funny when you see an artist coming in with the kind of rigidity in their reference that we've seen from John with the grid, and then the secondary reference. You really would expect a piece that is very... doesn't have that same kind of painterly hand, but we're definitely still seeing from John, there's absolutely a level of expressiveness here. There's painterly strokes. There's so much energy happening. This piece is not stagnant in any way. Great movement from the brush strokes, and also just from the way that he's capturing it, we're really getting the spirit of the energy of this piece. Just under 2 minutes remaining on the clock. So make sure that you go to artbattle.com/AB2408, the link on your screen. That is where you will get registered to vote. You can share this stream with friends, and you can also bid on the works that are being created tonight. So back with Kate, and I'm starting to think that this is a coffee potentially, and that we're getting an aerial view. So almost like a photograph of a peaceful moment in your day where you're staring down at your coffee. That's what I'm getting from this piece. And we're getting that kind of shadow that's being played across maybe potentially a tablecloth, giving us this kind of contemplative opportunity. Great contrast here from Brandon. We can see that he's just doing these refining brush marks, and is using the brush, again, very much like a drawing instrument, and using a super small brush for the majority of this painting. Has allowed for him to create a lot of beautiful detail there. And here we are back with Josie's Boy, and just so many beautiful refining strokes here. He looks very relaxed also as he's creating this piece. Definitely came in with a plan, as evidenced by his reference that we were able to see, and he has executed it beautifully. Very close to the reference, very powerful, this image of this woman holding up these boxing gloves. And even though we don't have the pupil of the eye, we're still getting a great opportunity of connection in this portrait. Whoa, the energy of this piece is totally changed from Naji, just with the addition of this red literally dripping from the mouth of this creature. And spending our final seconds with Tanya as she lays down her final brushstrokes. I'm so pleased with the way that John has done the background on this piece. It's almost like iced. It almost looks like an icing, and it's really giving that gold the opportunity to shine. So here we are getting a little bit more clarity with Kate, and this piece absolutely has been a journey of surprise, and I think this final creation of the handle of the mug has really driven home.
Artists, put your brushes in your water cup, please. Make some noise for the artists, everybody. Artists, get off the stage, please. Okay, so Art Battle has done a really awesome job. Honestly, it works great. This app that everybody can vote on. But the problem is it needs the internet. And
so that is the end. Our brush is down for round number 1. 6 incredible pieces. Really, truly some fantastic performances from our artists. And what a way to open the night with round number 1. We are just getting set for round number 2 of Art Battle here in New York. I am so excited for our next 6 artists. They are tried and true, amazing, epic artists. Some of them actually there's only one artist in the next round that is new to Art Battle. All the rest of them are all-star artists, so we are sure to be in for a treat. And even our new artist is pretty badass themselves, so I absolutely cannot wait to see how our next 20-minute round goes down. The artists are just setting their palettes at the moment, and we'll be ready.
I'm just gonna get right into it. All right, everybody, our first artist. I know we're having a good time. You're starting to feel loose, but make noise for them when they come up, okay? I know you're gonna get your chat going, but make noise for them also. Show some love for these artists that are coming up here. Okay, our first artist. You know what, Slow Key? Let's get a little beat. Let's get a little beat. Let's get a little rhythm. All right, our first artist in round 2. This is the brother of an Art Battle legend, one of my favorite people. This is an artist that would tell you that he could have been the best. He still might be. But his greedy older sister stole the stage. No, I'm just fucking with you. I know, I'm kidding. That was my words, not his. In all seriousness, we got an artist from Harlem. It's his second time on the Art Battle stage. Make some noise for Jorge! Our next artist, a first-time Art Battle artist from Queens, focuses on realism and portraits. I said, what else do you want me to say to the people about you? And he said, hi, make some noise for KP! There you go, KP. Our third artist, he performs a lot of collage downtown, which is an awesome event. You guys could know collage, you know. Artists get to paint in front of live audiences. He's a designer. He's actually a hat designer for Pro Standard. You'll see it tonight. He's from Long Island. First title on the Art Battle stage. Also, make some noise for Evan Snafu 77. Our next artist dabbles in activism, but really is here tonight representing her artistic skills. A little bit more of an anime background from Staten Island. Give it up for Miriam! artist to introduce. One of my favorite artists to introduce right here. A former art battle winner. She paints hellscapes. And I don't know what are hellscapes? Monsters, gremlins, demons, anything weird your little twisted, perverted mind can come up with. We got a master of that coming up. And this person is not visually who you think it will be. Make some noise for Amanda Riley! Last but certainly not least, one of my favorite people, forget artists, one of my favorite people in New York City. Heart of Gold. Unbelievable amounts of talent. Been around art battle for a long time, won a couple of them. Used to be a fashion illustrator, now it's a clothing designer. Everything he does when he paints these days is from his brain. Honestly, one of my favorites. Make some noise for Jehu! Okay, that's enough. That's enough of that. That's enough. All right, let's bring it down. All right, New York City. Second round. We're gonna get 2 artists from this round that are gonna go to the finals. So, we'd like to send them off at the blast. New York City, are you ready? Smokey, you ready? He's ready. All right, we're gonna battle on 3. 3, 2, 1, let's battle!
And our second round of Art Battle in New York has officially begun. This is really a star-studded round, guys. There are quite a few artists who have won Art Battle before, who have been finalists before, and then we have 2 new-coming artists who are painting in their very first battle, but I saw their work and it's pretty excellent, so I think that they have a really good shot at making it to the final as well. Let's see who we are checking out right now. This artist has, looks like they're going for a very graphic smiley face. Really controlled brushwork here already. I haven't seen the artist name tag yet, so, Evan Campanella, aka Snafu77, and I was really excited to see Evan paint. Evan really blends street art with symbolism, figures and patterns and organic shapes as well. So it'll be quite the surprise, I think, seeing what Evan brings to the easel. Here we are with Miriam Yu, and Miriam looks like she's going hard already and has toned her canvas with this bright pinky red leaning into a little bit of orange at the bottom there. I think that that is such a strong strategy to start off with, because it really leaves you with a canvas that there's not a lot of negative space to deal with on top of that. And so the whole piece is going to come off as more finished as she's working on it, because there's not a lot of white that's left. And here we are with Amanda Riley. Amanda is one of my favorite Art Battle New York artists. She was a winner in June of this year and has just recently become a total Art Battle addict. She really loves the energy of painting live, and it's so evidenced in her work. She gets so involved, and she's a very physical painter as well. And here we are with Jaehoon, and Jaehoon has been painting with Art Battle for quite a long time, many seasons of Art Battle New York under his belt. I believe that he's been a previous winner also, and many times has made it to the finals. Jaehoon has a very specific, fantastical way of painting and creating these worlds that no other brain could come up with, and it's really exciting to see him painting here tonight. We can see that he's working on what looks like a portrait, and then we've got a rooster coming out of the portrait's head. So again, unique ideas, unique inspirations from Jae-hoon. And here we are with Keenan Porter, I believe. Is this Keenan Porter? And he is laying down some thick, super colorful paint right now. And I have to say, I'm really surprised about that. When we were looking at Keenan's studio work, it was very dark and somber. So to see this level of vibrancy right off the bat from Keenan is definitely a curveball, but one that I am really engaged with, and I think that the audience will be really engaged with as well. Rolling over to Jorge, and it's so funny. Our MC was talking about how Jorge was playfully saying that his sister has already stolen the Art Battle New York title. His sister, Martha Leisha, is also a Art Battle New York competitor and has won several events. So Jorge has come to step out of his sister's shadow and hopefully make it to the finals tonight and potentially win as well. I've seen Jorge paint a few times, and he is an absolutely excellent painter in his own right, and I'm sure that his piece is going to be absolutely stunning. Right now we're seeing him working on a skull piece. So we had a skull piece already in round number 1, but this one is very different in that it is very colorful. We're working in this kind of toned down teal and then getting that punch of juxtaposition from the red coming right away. So Jorge is really well known for creating compositions that almost collage different elements and characters. So can't wait to see how that turns out. Here we are back with Snafu, aka Evan Campanella, and working in these really slow, methodical modalities and creating these shapes. So Evan, I think, often is recognizable for doing figurative work, so it'll be interesting to see if this piece leans into the figurative or if it's going to stay abstract, or if it's going to stay in this kind of more playful realm. Just from the line work and that kind of smile element that he's going on, I'm getting a sense of playfulness from this piece. Back with Miriam Yu here, and Miriam is just making such a great use of this tonal ground, and she's sketching on top of the wet paint with black paint and using a really small brush. Again, I want to kind of point out almost like a drawing technique, and she's really getting some beautiful flowing lines there. And now we're moving on to Amanda Riley, and we can see Amanda is really engaged with this piece. I'm starting to think that this is a tiger, potentially. Amanda does these pieces that are so completely unexpected. Amanda has a style that is so completely recognizable as her own, and it's this chaotic, circus-inspired, illustrative work that is also very painterly at the same time. And when I say painterly, I mean brushstrokes that look like brushstrokes. And sometimes when we think about work that is a little bit more illustrative, it's leaning more into that kind of perfect space. But Amanda really makes a huge effort to imbue her pieces with a lot of that kind of chaotic energy that really just helps them sing. Back with Jae-hoon here, and I really love the way that Jae-hoon is adding in these lines. We can see that his brush is loaded up with paint that is quite wet, and he's using this acrylic paint almost like an ink, and he's able to get this really beautiful flow and sharp lines from it. We can see that he has toned his canvas as well with that blue color, and it's really adding a lot of movement to the background of the piece. Back with Keenan Porter here, and more of this color leaning onto the canvas, getting kind of this patchwork going on. Wondering if this piece is going to stay totally abstracted or if we'll be moving into some sort of figurative space. Very painterly movements here, lots of textural application of color. Watching Keenan paint this way makes me wonder if he is used to using oil paint at home. We're seeing a lot of the colors that he's using are being blended right on the canvas, which I often think as an oil painter's technique. Back with Jorge here, and the red color that we saw is now emerged as this giant curving snake-like tongue. This piece is totally badass. It's really giving so much energy. And the way that Jorge has the lines kind of curving just above the teeth, that's my favorite part. There's always just small moments in paintings, I think, as we look at them, that we'll pick an inch or two that becomes our favorite part of the painting. And for me, the lines that are leading into the teeth and the highlight on the cheekbone of this skull are really setting it off for me. And back with Evan here. And he is adding kind of a buttery yellow and has now added teeth into this composition. It's definitely giving like alien vibes with the amount of eyeballs that we have kind of floating around it, and then we have one little lonely eyeball on the bottom of the canvas. And then we've got kind of the suggestion almost of like a landscape form in the bottom third of the canvas, and I think that that is helping to kind of add weight. But this piece is turning out very surreal, definitely giving me like a Keith Haring meets Salvador Dali vibe. Back with Miriam here, and it looks like she's starting to add these background elements as well. And I hope that, yes, we're getting a better view here. I think that they're actually these feathered wings that are coming off of this character. And you can see that they're just really gorgeous in the way that they're executed. Lots of flowing marks and marks that are very gradient based as well. Miriam really has a great understanding of how to use paint in that kind of ink-like quality like we're seeing with Jae-hoon as well, where it's watered down and can give you that opportunity of creating gradients, but also sharp lines. So checking out Amanda's piece here, we are just over the halfway point. These guys have just under 9 minutes remaining on the clock. And looks like Amanda's piece has turned into a head inside of a crazy tiger's mouth. And she's doing her signature spiral eyes for the tiger. And I'm so into the way that this is going. It's so strange, but it's so engaging. Heading over to Jae-hoon again, and now we've got this beautiful expression of the red being painted onto this rooster head. This is so strange and wonderful. I think this round is definitely giving us a lot of opportunity to explore the surreal from these artists, and art battle in general is just such a great way to see inside the mind of an artist, and just, you know, that none of these pieces would come from any other artist than the one that's painting them, and potentially wouldn't exist if it weren't for the specific energy that's happening at art battle as well, because we have all of these rapid lines happening. So it looks like we're getting a bit of potentially a cityscape being painted into this piece from Keenan here. bringing us more into a reality space within this abstracted color field. And with 7.5 minutes left on the clock, now is a great time to remind you guys to go to artbattle.com/AB2408. That is where you will be able to register to vote. And you can also share the stream as you're watching it. If you want to share it with friends, that is the link to do so. Check out the way that Jorge is refining these highlights. There's such a great quality of movement here and varying thickness of the line that's really helping us to understand the shape of the bones of this skull. And more playfulness here from Evan. It's interesting the use of these kind of painterly techniques where he's blended the blues up top and kept them kind of very buttery, and we've got that contrast of the lighter and the darker, and the playfulness of the figures that he's working on. So we have kind of this intentional space of using a technique that would be considered a little bit more classical, a little bit more mature, and then juxtaposing it with the playfulness and whimsicalness of the strange floating smile character that he's working on. And here we are back with Miriam, and Miriam looks like she's done a really great job in terms of time management on this piece, punching in her highlights now and really just setting off that portrait and providing that kind of little bit of contrast that I think we're craving in this piece. It's really helping to bring the figure forward because there's such a busy environment that's happening with the toned canvas and with the wings. It's really bringing that forward. So now we can see that Amanda is working on the head inside of her tiger's mouth. And it's pretty funny to watch a painting or a portrait emerge also from this painting. With Amanda, it's all about the unexpected elements. Here we are with Jae-hoon, and Jae-hoon is again working in that very ink-based kind of modality, using a flat brush to create these super clean lines and these rapid movements that he's using that allow him to get these sharp, thin edges. So definitely a cityscape has emerged from Keenan here. We can see the lights sparkling in our cityscape. And it looks like we're getting some water and the reflection of the cityscape going into the foreground. Getting a little bit of a dystopian vibe from this piece with kind of the menace of the red in the sky there, and contrast going on there as well. So Jorge is now adding in his final refinements. Since we've seen him last, he has outlined the whole skull and tongue of the skull, or maybe brainstem. I don't know. What do you guys think? In this green color, and I think it really helps to emphasize the rest of the piece and separates it enough from the background so that it's not receding. The heart on this piece is so fun. It's such a playful element there. I would love to talk to Evan and see where this inspiration for this piece came from, because I'm sure that there's something very specific that he's thinking of, and I want to hear the strange story that goes with this creature. If you have a story that you would love to make up about this guy being our strange little floating surreal alien guy, I would love to hear it in the comments. I think the best part is that kind of butter yellow in the teeth. It's adding like a little bit of menace, but it's such a friendly looking face. So just under 3 minutes remaining here with Miriam, and we can see that she's adding these really rapid brush strokes She's managed her time really, really well and has basically created this entire piece to finish, and just is using her last few minutes to punch in those last little bits of highlight and contrast. Back with Amanda here, and I can't help but laugh when I see this piece. It's so crazy and in your face, and so hypnotizing and engaging, and I think that that's going to be something that really translates for the audience as well. And now we can see that she's adding in her signature spiral eyes, and we've got these wonky teeth coming out of the tiger's mouth, and she's jumping on the spot as she's creating it, and just so much fun in terms of performance, in terms of execution, in terms of the piece from Amanda there. Rounding over to Jaehoon, and Jaehoon has added these wonderful expressive brush strokes coming in from the sides of the canvas, and is really using that red to harmonize the whole of the piece. We see that coming in from the background, contrasting that green, and then also being added super carefully right now into the high points of the face, and that's giving us kind of a sense of fullness in the face and that kind of flushed quality of the skin tone. We are in our final minute here, and we have Keenan now adding in a little boat, potentially a fisher, in our water here. And this piece has gone through a lot of refinement over the last few minutes. We've seen a lot of blending happening, and there's definitely a mood that has arisen from this piece. We started and went on kind of a journey of this being almost purely abstract, and then now being kind of toned down into this scene, and the use of that tonal quality, graying it out a little bit in the water, I think has brought a lot of maturity to the piece. Just stunning work from Jorge. I think that Jorge came to the easel very We are in our final minute of painting, and we can see that these artists are just adding their refining final strokes. So now it's time to go to artbattle.com/AB2408, and you can register to vote and bid on the work to take it home as well. Just our final flurry of brush strokes here. We can see the level of concentration from these artists. As we're coming around the corner and checking out Amanda's piece, I'm starting to realize how textural it is as well. There's a buildup of paint in quite a few pieces, or quite a few places. We can see Keenan just adding in these final pops of highlight, just blending out, and also now bringing some of that red from the sky into the water to just really emphasize that connection of reflective quality. I think that that's a great addition. Really appreciate that.
Brushes down, artist brushes down. New York City, make some noise for these artists on stage. All right, artists, put your brushes in the bucket. We'll clean it up. All right, slow, give him a beat. Give him a little beat while we clear out the stage. We got
So that marks the end of round number 2 for Art Battle in New York tonight. What an exciting round. I thought I was blown away by round number 1, but I was also just as blown away by round number 2. We've had some really exciting performances here tonight, and we've been treated to a lot of different variety of style. We've had some more serious portraiture, we've had more playful pieces, we've had still life, we've had landscape. We've really had such a breadth of work on display tonight, and our New York artist community really came with the thunder tonight. So a huge shout out and thank you to all 12 of our artists that painted with us tonight. We are just collecting the votes, and we'll be back for round number 3 in just a few minutes. Make sure that you head on over to that voting link on your screen, artbattle.com/AB2408, and get registered to vote. We will be back in just a few minutes as the votes are counted. Getting ready for round number 3. Our top 2 artists from round number 1 and our top 2 artists from the round that we just saw will move forward into a 4-artist final and will paint again.
Okay, here we go. Bring it down all the way. Beautiful. Right now. Secret weapons. All right, hop on. They used to say back in the day in hip hop, they said slow it down so we can speed it up. That's what we're gonna do right now. Right now, what we're doing is we're slowing it down so we can speed it up. All right, guys, this is the finals tonight. The winner of this, it does matter. They're gonna go on. They're gonna come back to LPR in a couple months. Okay, we're gonna need you guys to cheer for them. So, without further ado, we're gonna bring out our 4 finalists. First and foremost, right behind me, I told you brother of a legend, but he's making a name for himself from Harlem. Give it up for Jorge! Yeah, DJ, okay, helping me out. First time Art Battle artist tonight. I'm proud of him, because honestly, we were in the locker room before the game, and I felt like he was going to throw up in a trash can, and the motherfucker just came out and crushed it. Give it up for KP from Queens! He was like, yeah, I'm sure right now he's like, man, I was never going to throw up. What the fuck are you talking about? Point is, the man crushed it. First timer. Another first timer. I mean, I told my girl, and I told him too. I said, you two are not allowed to talk. It's your girl's favorite artist. Tony Josie's Boy Gonzalez! Don't look at her. Don't. Oh. Right. We're going to have a new Art Battle winner tonight. I'll tell you that. JD Paints with a Z. Make some noise for Queen T Paints. All right, New York City. It's an early show, so I know you guys have had fun. Everybody's having a great time. It's still early in the night. 20 minutes from here. Grab a drink, tip your bartender, have a great time. Bid on the paintings up there, take something home. But most of all, make some noise right now for these artists, New York City. DJ Slow Key, you ready? I don't know, you ready? Last time, New York City, are you ready? 3, 2, 1, let's battle!
Our final round of Art Battle in New York has now begun. These guys have another 20 minutes on the clock to go from blank canvas to incredible masterpiece right in front of our eyes. And they have already painted once tonight, so they need now in the final round to do an even better painting. So I think we're gonna really enjoy seeing what these artists bring to their second paintings of the night in this final round. Are they going to be using the same palette? Are they going to be creating works that act as a companion piece to their qualifying piece? Are they going to turn it on its head and do something completely different? It really is up in the air at this point. In our first minute here of the final round, and the artists that have made it through to the final are Jorge Matarrita, John D'Olimpio, Josie's Boy, and Keenan Porter. So here we are with Josie's Boy. Rounding over to our artist here. I think that this is Jorge, and he has toned the whole canvas with red here, and is now adding black in this really thick way of painting. And oh my god, just these few strokes, we can see that I think that that's going to be an eagle or an owl, and this is just totally stunning. So here we have Keenan, and Keenan is creating a drawing right off of the bat, and I feel like I'm seeing some legs coming down. I can see that our camera person is kind of sneakily trying to catch what's on the reference for Keenan here. And looks like we've got some sweet kicks. So perhaps we're going to see kind of a bit of a shoe icon going on for Keenan. And here we are with John D'Olimpio, aka JD Paints. And we can see that John is using a similar palette to what he used in his first round qualifying piece. So if you want to travel back in time with me and think about John's first round piece, it was this incredible kind of Greek god portrait in these beautiful blue tones with a golden background. And we can see that John is definitely taking a much different approach this time around. We've got similarities in palette that he's bringing that blue in again, but he doesn't have his crazy reference strategy that we saw from the first round, that grid work. So perhaps this piece is going to be leaning a little bit more into being organic. So here we are with Josie's Boy, and he is doing another figure. So similar in scale, actually. Similar in scale to our first round piece that, and I love it. He actually did bring a second reference with him. So he was very confident tonight. He's definitely come with a plan to create two pieces. So that tells me that he was pretty confident in getting to the final. And I love seeing that energy. So back with Jorge here, and this piece is just emerging from this bright color field. Lots of painterly work here, huge amount of contrast, and we can also see that on top of, so underneath the initial bird painting that we were getting, we're also getting a portrait coming through underneath. And we can see that Jorge is just adding in these points for the portrait and adding some height to the face. And when I say that, I mean where the light would hit the face, so the rounder parts. We're seeing highlights emerging on the cheekbones, the top of the lip. So here we are back with Keenan, and a totally different approach in this piece from his first round or second round qualifying work. The second round qualifying work that Keenan did was very abstract based in its start and then ended somewhere into a landscape / cityscape. So here we're seeing an approach that is totally different. It's very contained and refined and based around this kind of iconic Nike shoe, looks like. I'm seeing that logo kind of peeking through. Rounding back over to John. Oh, and skipping past John. No, here we are. So we're getting this quality of kind of clouds going on from the way that John's painting now. It's either clouds or potentially with the warmth that's been established at the bottom, could also be an aerial view of an ocean. And as John is adding in more of these darker points of contrast and just kind of like adding depth in there, I am starting to think that maybe that could be the correct guess. Back with Josie's boy here, and we're getting that gorgeous highlight kind of skimming off of the back of this figure. And I have to say, I'm really enjoying watching Josie's boy creating, because we're seeing this paint application technique that's very painterly. There's quite a few tones going on in the canvas. You could see the brushwork. You could see these kind of elongated strokes and points of highlight. But then I'm sure as we progress into the painting, we're going to be seeing it refined more and kind of being brought back into more of an illustrative style. And I am so here for it. Josie's boy, this is his first ever art battle, so this is his art battle debut, and to be debuting in Art Battle New York is definitely something, because it is absolutely a fierce competition around here. We had a lot of artists apply to get into the show, and we picked the best of the best for you guys tonight, and they are definitely showing up with this special art battle energy. The way that Jorge is using contrast here is just so exciting to me. I'm really enjoying the kind of toned down quality that's in the figure's face. And then the like extreme contrast of the red coming from behind. It almost is suggesting that the figure is kind of like backlit. And I think that that is a really interesting choice. Back with Keenan here, and we are 8 minutes elapsed, so I would love to see Keenan break out some crazy brushwork and start to tackle more of that negative space that's present on the canvas right now. We remember from our first minute watching Keenan that he had drawn some legs in there, so it'll be cool to see whether or not he spends more time on the shoes, or if he's starting to bring the piece together by adding more. And as I'm saying that, we can see Keenan throwing down some cerulean blue with a pretty heavy hand, and that is kind of calling back to his first round piece. So interested to see whether or not that piece gets a lot more colorful, what vibe it's going to go into. This is Keenan's first ever time painting in an art battle, so we don't have a ton of familiarity with his process, and so really there's a lot of surprise that we're open to. Back with John here, and I think that my guess was right on the money, and that we're getting an aerial scene of an ocean or water, and we can get these waves, the impression of these waves crashing. And the way that John has approached this in laying down this kind of sandy color with wispiness and a little bit of wash and extra water, the way that he's laid down all of these different layers allows for that kind of blending technique that creates a softness, and is definitely helping to express the translucence of the waves. And back with Josie's boy here, and we're getting again this orb around the figure, and it's really kind of canonizing this figure and bringing it into that kind of art historical context where we're used to seeing these orbs or halos surrounding figures to make them seem more important, the way that we kind of deified saints. And so there's a deification that's happening here with this figure, and really just kind of emphasizing the majesty of this womanly figure happening here. We are just past the halfway mark, and Jorge does not seem fazed at all. He is totally chill and just really concentrating on that brushwork. We can see that he's being super careful with the way that he's using his pinky finger to brace his hand to create a steadiness. I always love seeing little kind of pro tips emerging from the performance of these artists. When you really pay attention to the way that they're working, there's so many different techniques that you can pick up on. And right now he's using just the very, very tip of his pinky finger to stabilize his hand, and it's allowing him to create these brush strokes with a sense of surety. And changing the camera angle here, I'm loving the way the light is catching that super wet black. So lots going on, lots and lots and lots has happened since the last time we were around Keenan's piece. We have this kind of cataclysm of color happening, and very thickly applied, very painterly, very expressive, and all of these colors are kind of leading into each other. And if his qualifying round piece was any indication of how he paints, we're sure to see these kind of these different patches of color begin to harmonize as the round goes on. And we have just about 8 minutes remaining on the clock. And we can see that Keenan is now using his fingers to apply the paint. And honestly, that is one of my absolute favorite art battle techniques. It's so tactile. It really helps the crowd to feel included in the painting. It's so performative. And I know that the audience just loves seeing artists getting really into their work like that. So I'm sure that as Keenan is bringing in those finger painting techniques, that he's going to be gathering a crowd behind him as well. Swinging over to John, and this piece is just getting more and more gorgeous as we watch. And getting now, I feel the level of risk from these strokes that John is doing now, because we saw just a slight amount of hesitation as he was putting his brush to canvas. And we can see that, yes, it did do what he wanted it to do, but that was a little bit of a risky move, working into that beautiful, beautiful gradient and depth that he had already established for the water. And that is one of the major challenges of art battle, is seeing just the level of risk that these artists are taking. You really can go in with a plan, but then say you have 5 minutes left on the clock and you have an idea that you want to add. You don't have time really to fix it if it doesn't work out. So these artists really have to create with confidence, and I'm sure that that John is feeling that right now. Loving watching Josie's Boy adding these highlights in here, especially the way that he's drawing the highlight from the underside of the arm, and then just a slight bump around where the elbow is and continuing into the wrist. It's this really beautiful line and helps to establish where the light source is coming from for this portrait. And speaking of light sources on our portrait, I am so all about the kind of triangular highlight that's happening on the top lip for this portrait from Jorge. It's really helping us to understand the light and shadow that's going on this figure's face, where the planes of the face are. And now we're getting those senses of highlight coming into the feathers as well. And it's really just setting off this piece. I think that Jorge has absolutely managed his time in such a smart way, in that I think the crowd is going to feel really engaged and excited and invested in this piece. And then we see those hits of highlight going in. We see those hits of that blackest black going in and providing that point of contrast and just helping that portrait to really, really jump forward and grab the audience. Here we are back with Keenan, and Keenan has decided to add a little bit of text. We have New York City, NYC happening in our green background. I'm wondering if he's going to keep that as a graphic element because I think that it adds a great level of attitude and also brings some of that kind of street art attitude into this piece as well. And then we have, he's adding in the color into the leg now. And looks like he's using the same color for the leg and for the shorts. But again, with Keenan, you never know. The peachy color that John has brought into the sand here is just gorgeous. And so we now see birds. This is such a mind-bending thing. Because I see a beach and waves, and I'm positive that that's what it is. But the way that John has thrown these birds onto here, very carefully, I'm sure that getting that level of specificity in those tiny, tiny birds was very difficult. But the way that he's put them into this space makes me view it in a different way. It almost changes the perspective. So I'm so glad that we're here capturing Josie's boy, adding in these signature black lines and really kind of unifying everything. With 3 minutes left on the clock, it's a little bit of a nail biter, but I'm sure that he will get it done. We're seeing that he's using these lines to kind of emphasize the shapes of the body and using them quite sparingly as well. And I actually really admire that. If we look at the bottom of the canvas, we can see just that wave of suggestion of the calf and then just a single line to suggest the heel. And I think it's so beautiful and creates a sense of liveliness within the portrait and really gives a sense of life to this character. We have 2 minutes remaining on the clock, so make sure that you go to artbattle.com/AB2408. You can vote there, and you can also see all of these artists' bios and their studio work. So if you are interested to contrast what you're seeing them doing live with what they do in the studio, make sure that you head on over to that link where you can see their profile. Beautiful use of highlights from Jorge there. Just this piece is really singing from a distance, and I think that that is going to be a great factor in this battle. I think that that is going to be a really helpful quality, because often we're thinking, us watching the stream here, we have this up-close view of all of these paintings, but the audience who's there, they might be 10 to 15 feet away. So sometimes creating a piece that has presence up close and from farther away can be a real challenge, and I think that Jorge has definitely been successful in that. We have our final minute ticking down. Just adding in these final small refining points. For John, that means adding in these textural components, and potentially it's not an aerial view of waves. Maybe we're looking through a chasm of clouds, and you can really get an understanding of how a painting and the perception of a painting can turn on a dime, because this piece has totally changed in the way that I'm perceiving it with the addition of birds, and now with the way that John is refining those clouds that I had originally thought were waves. We are getting into our final few seconds here of the final round of Art Battle in New York tonight. A really, really exciting competition so far. And only one artist will be crowned the winner tonight, and that artist will be moving forward to the New York City finals. Wow, look at this level of refinement here, and such careful brushwork with actually a very large brush. So really have to admire the technique and the hand control required there from Josie's boy. Stunning, absolutely stunning works. And we can see Keenan adding in the final touches here, just adding just that little touch of black to help refine the logo there of the Nike in the shoes. And we can see that Jorge is done. We like to call that a mic drop in the art battle arena. That's when an artist just stops painting. Oh, but now he's coming back. What is he going to add? One more highlight that he's seen needs to be added, or perhaps a signature. And Keenan just adding in the kind of emphasizing line of the soles on this shoe. I'm so in love with the way that this piece has transpired from John. His technique in painting is so engaging to watch, and really so enamored with the way that he has transitioned from creating that super strong portrait to this very soft aerial landscape, as I would kind of categorize it. And still getting these shadows here from Josie's boy, really emphasizing the curves of the body and just adding in those shapes. We can see that using the same brush, he's blending out the shadows, and then once that brush has lost its paint, he's able to use that to blend in the highlights as well, because there's not as much paint, so it's a more gentle application. And a completely unexpected element emerging here from Jorge with this cerulean blue outlining all of the feathers of this headdress and this portrait. Really just as if this piece didn't have enough contrast already that we were super excited about. This additional element is just kind of lending to the graphic quality and really driving that light source home. And back with Keenan here, and we've really gone into an expressionist territory at the bottom of the canvas with the way that these colors are kind of colliding into each other, and we can see that Keenan is really, again, involved in this tactile manner with the painting by using that finger painting technique. Just gorgeousness all around from John D'Olimpio, aka JD Paints. Oh, and another unexpected element here, we can see that he's just gone in with a Bayer, and a Bayer is a tool, or Bayer, printmaking nerds get at me, but it's a printmaking tool that is a flat roller, and so he's used that to kind of create these textural contrasts. getting ready to get into our countdown now. We can see that Jorge is just celebrating. He's pretty stoked. He knows that he did a great painting. We're raising a dripping sponge to the audience. What a great triumphant.
8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Rushes down!
Our winner has just been announced, and it is John D'Olimpio, aka JD Paints. We can see him standing there beside his gorgeous aerial landscape, and we are just so happy to be welcoming John to the New York City finals later in the spring. Very, very excited for John. A huge congratulations and a very well-deserved win. Big shout out to all 12 of our artists tonight who did just such a fantastic job. It takes a lot of creativity and courage to come up to the Art Battle easel, and we are so grateful for all of our artists. And if you are watching this stream right now and your mirror neurons are firing and you want to step up to the Art Battle easel as well, head on over to artbattle.com and apply. We would love to see your work. Shout out to our team on the ground as well, and good night.